Chat, gentlemen, we got to get into this redonkulous thought and theory. So I sent you guys over what I think could be happening for next year. So folks, you're going to have to walk with me on this. Okay. Next year, Xbox is celebrating its 25th anniversary, right? We talked about Halo, Gears E-Day is coming out, Forza is finally going to Japan, Fable is going to have its direct in January, thanks to a story from Jez Corden a couple of weeks ago. We know that Modern Warfare 4 from Infinity Ward is releasing in the fall, as per the normal, release schedule for Call of Duty. We could get the Clockwork Revolution as well, and there's going to be other surprise releases in there. Now, myself, along with a lot of people in the Xbox community, and this is unofficial, folks, have heard that they're pulling out all the stops for the 25th anniversary of Xbox. And one of those stops, I personally think, this is where I'm asking for you to walk with me on this. Crispy, you and I have been talking about this behind the scenes in our own personal DM. And for months, we have heard that besides the Asus handhelds that released earlier in October in the form of the Xbox Ally and the Xbox Ally X, the rumor is that Xbox, Asus, and AMD have been working on what is expected to be an OEM home console device released next year. Now, this is something that this is not the first time you're hearing this. We've heard this from Colt Eastwood. We've heard it from Shinobi 602. We've heard it from Okami_13. There's been a lot of rumors from many of the big social mediaites, if you will, of Twitter. People have done videos. People have done podcasts. I've talked about it. Crispy has talked about it. Everybody on this panel has talked about it. And why that's interesting is if this device releases next year, we don't know how much this device is going to be. Now, people are saying, I know there's a running rumor, every Xbox device now is going to be $1,200. Well, here's why that's not going to happen. First of all, and this was broken down, and I wish I remember who said this. When you look at the Xbox handheld, right, it was $1,000. And the reason why it's $1,000, obviously tariffs, sure. We all know that. But you have to remember you're trying to get speakers, a screen, a heat sink, a battery, and you're trying to get all of these chips shrunk down into this handheld that somehow works. The magic of technology, it just works, right? Consoles are not going to follow the same guidelines. So this next console, even though it's probably going to be expensive, I don't think it's going to be $1,000. It could be $700 or $800. And after the response from gamers with the handhelds, I think that this sets up that it could, in fact, be the first OEM box underneath your TV for Xbox. And like Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer have said publicly, they're taking what they have learned from working with Asus and moving that into their own hardware, which has not been confirmed, but is expected to release in 2027. Well, next year, ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest games of the year, as much as I'd love to say that's Halo, Gears, Forza, Wolverine, a new Mario, a new Zelda, it's not. It's Grand Theft Auto 6. Now, Grand Theft Auto 6 was supposed to release this year, and it was delayed until May of 26. I think we're going to get one more delay. And I say that, with no insider information. It's Rockstar. This is just what they do. And May, yeah, that's a great time to release a game. There's not a lot happening, but it's right before the summer. A lot of people are going to be traveling. They're going to want to get. I mean, listen. Whenever this game releases, it could release on a Thursday at 3:00 in the morning. They're going to sell a bazillion copies. It's probably going to sell in its first week 25 million copies. And I might be undercutting it, but Crispy Bomb, this is where I might get the virtual tomatoes. This is where I might get the applause, because one of PlayStation's more outspoken, PlayStation Nation community members, Detective Seeds. Now, I don't really talk with him. Not that I don't like the guy. I don't really have nothing against him. Sometimes he can be very trolly, but that's fine. It's it's his business. He said, and he had, according to him, that it was confirmed that PlayStation had sent out a bunch of technicians, and they're working side by side with the folks at Rockstar Games to get Grand Theft Auto 6 on the PlayStation 5 running at 60 frames. I don't know how they're going to do it, but somehow that's going to happen. I would imagine more so on the Pro than the regular PS5, because if it can run on the PS5 at 60 frames, the Xbox version is going to be able to run at 60 frames. Now, I don't know so much about the S, but I don't think the S is going to be a problem either, because literally the head of 2K said, no, don't worry about anything. We've worked it out. The S is not going to be a problem. So they're going to get it working. That's probably why it's been delayed. And I can't say specifically it's because of the S. But so some of the running conversation, especially in games media, has been, well, the best place to play Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to be the PlayStation. I beg to differ. And my thought and theory is that if this OEM device does in fact come out, I think, and this is, again, folks, my personal opinion on this, and it could be incredibly wrong and it could be incredibly skewed. And if that's the case, so be it. But it is a thought and a theory. Crispy, what if Xbox, AMD, and Asus are working side by side the same way it was reported by Detective Seeds for PlayStation's technicians to go over to Rockstar? What if this next OEM device releases day and date with Grand Theft Auto 6? It will be the best place to play Grand Theft Auto. And for a lot of people who are on PS4s and PS4 Pros and OG Xbox One and One X and S, this could be an opportunity. And again, I know that I'm not talking about console sales. I'm talking about the best place to play Grand Theft Auto 6 may actually not be a PlayStation. Now, it's probably going to sell the best on PlayStation, just like Black Ops 6 did last year. That's not a surprise. It has 80 million plus consoles in the wild. It has a lot of players as opposed to the 35 to 40 million that the Xbox X and S have. Now, I don't think it's closer to 40. I think it's closer to 35, but that's still, I think PlayStation wins that battle. But if you are a gamer who wants to play the best version of this actually could happen. Now, again, it's just a theory, folks. Crispy, I want to get your thoughts on this, because you think I might be onto something here.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about it, that would give them some decent sales up front. Depends the price, obviously. I think you got to look at what they're doing. This is an Xbox thing. Everybody is kind of like, chuckling at it, but in realism, with this handheld that just came out, this is the way they're going. They're going to release, it's going to be like your gaming PCs or PCs in general, especially the laptops, gaming laptops. If you think of them, like, you have your services, you have all these different companies involved. And in realism, they really just want to, make an Xbox experience happen on all of these devices. And I think, in the beginning stages we're at right now, but in realism, the cloud is going to be the infrastructure that they're going to leverage on a lot of things. But you're going to want these experiences that don't involve that or have a little need of it. So, it's logical. could it be reverse? I mean, everybody that they're going to release their own hardware without anybody else, like a Asus out there. And, could they have already be ahead on that? And we're really going to see OEMs after. The point is that you're going to be able to play GTA, and this is crazy to think about, because of 5 on all of these, iterations for another 10 to 15 years. So that platform is going to be agnostic. Yes, it's technically coming to PC later, but they're just going to continually sell this until no end. And we've seen it with 5. So Xbox going out there and saying, this is our anniversary. We have the opportunity to work with partners to get a console out there is completely logical. To have GTA on top of all the other things coming out and having the abilities that could be provided with this new subset of consoles, it gives the great opportunity to have like such a launch experience like we've never seen before. And I really think, like, even though people hate on the Xbox One, those launch titles were pretty impressive. I think to have this experience focused on games and gaming, a lot of people would be like, oh, exclusivity. I mean, the way they're doing it, it's just not logical anymore. And in realism, they're going to put out as much software as possible next year to really say, hey, we're here to stay. You're not just getting a couple games, you're getting more than a handful. And this is our anniversary. And oh, by the way, here's our partner, Asus, possibly saying this is a PC hybrid console that is going to play all of your games, and it is going to have all the bells and whistles you want, but it's going to feel like an Xbox. I think that would be a statement to gaming in general to say, hey, we are trying to change something that hasn't been really changed in a long time. And this is how we're going to do it. And as long as they do it correctly, I think it could be something that we look back on in 10 to 15 years and say Xbox really changed the entire gaming landscape. And I think that's what they're going for. Whether it works or not, we will see.
Great points, brother. Great points. Look, Silent Cypher, there were a couple of things happening with Xbox specifically. Now, as you heard me say, Detective Seeds had made mention, and he wasn't the only one. There were a few other reports about technicians from PlayStation working side by side with Rockstar. That makes perfect sense because PlayStation knows that they're going to be getting 30% of every, or maybe it's even 80%. I don't know, 20%, because I don't know what the cut is for Rockstar. Maybe they, moved it up to 80%, their take, versus 20 for PlayStation and all the other platforms. Who knows how that's going to work? But Sony PlayStation is going to sell a boatload of copies of Grand Theft Auto 6. And the same way that Sony sent over their technicians, well, Xbox has their own group of technicians that work closely with 2K as well. And they will work just as close with Rockstar. So one of the pushbacks I saw in the chat is that it's not coming to PC. And that's probably true. And even though these are, people that do not and will not admit that the Xbox Ally X and the S are Xbox handhelds, they're PC handhelds, they're still Play Anywhere. Now, there's going to be somebody in the chat that's going to push back on and say, oh, there's no way Rockstar is going to allow for Play Anywhere. Well, if you keep your ear to the socials, one of the running conversations that seems to be getting a lot of eyeballs on is people are making their choice to buy a game based on the fact that it is a Play Anywhere title. The Silent Hill 2 remake just got updated, and it's coming out for Xbox. Apparently, if you look at if I saw somebody post it, I didn't read it myself, so I don't know if it's true, but that might be a Play Anywhere title. More and more releases are becoming Play Anywhere titles. And why that's important is because Play Anywhere is a big push from Xbox. They want you to be able to play a game that you purchase on your tablet, your TV, your pewter, wherever you want to play, your handheld, your console, it doesn't matter. Who's to say that Xbox doesn't work out a deal to get one of the biggest games of 2026 to be a Play Anywhere title? I don't see why that can happen. Play Anywhere doesn't do anything or hurt Rockstar in any way. It just gives the purchaser the ability to play the game wherever they want. And I think that is a brilliant way of gaming and moving forward. And it's something, it's a new thing that I think Xbox is leading the charge on. Let me get your thoughts on this. Could this OEM device that's been rumored to be releasing next year release around the same time as GTA? And would it ultimately be the best place to play, because it's probably going to run it the best based on the fact that this hybrid console PC is going to be new tech, and it's going to be even more powerful than the Series X or the PlayStation 5 Pro?
So I guess the biggest thing for me, right, is like, we know that the next gen is obviously going to be very high end.
Yep.
Who's to say that this one, like, we don't realistically know what the specs are going to be for this one, but you know, you could potentially, again, like, having someone else do this thing as like a collaboration, partnership, or whatever, or just doing this extra hardware to make it a function. I've kind of talked about the idea that, like, you know, with some of these new systems are coming out, if you have other people bringing out systems and options and stuff, besides Microsoft, you could target specific things, right? Like if you had someone that didn't really care that much about the resolution, you could specifically upgrade to cater more to like high frames, but at like a 1080p locked, for example. So you could have hardware that's kind of geared more towards like 120 frames, but not as high a resolution. You could do a more premium tier version, which it sounds like potentially is in the works. Sarah had kind of mentioned the fact that like this one that's coming out from them is supposedly like very premium, etc. You can take that however you want. That could mean like the specs and the capability. It could mean the price point. It could mean both. It's hard to say. But for this one, because we had heard for a while that there was a possibility that we were going to see another system come out in 2026 prior to the actual like next gen proper. And so, you know, that kind of lines up with the idea of like, well, yeah, you could bring it out and you could have it for GTA 6 like you're talking about. That seems like it could be a possibility, especially as we've seen what they're doing with the Xbox ROG Ally systems. It's not an unrealistic thing for someone to bring out another system that would allow you to do those things, and it be a partner system like through ROG or through Asus. I mean, so I could see something like that happening, and honestly, you know, like that would definitely take some wind out of the sails of Sony. if you had an Xbox system that came out and then all of a sudden was the like high tier place to play. But it does make me a little bit interested to see, like, obviously we'll never know all the details, but I would imagine there's a lot of money in the background on this thing. We don't know for sure, but Sony most likely does have the marketing. And they probably have something, especially since we've known for a little bit now what Microsoft's plans are. They probably have something in the verbiage that says like, hey, this can't be played on anything that allows you to use like the Xbox wrapper or something like that, for example. Like they could possibly do something to try and block it. That being said, like, will it happen that way? I don't know. Like it feels like it's too early to tell. Microsoft is going in a different direction with this, and I think that's what a lot of the Sony fanboys are having a hard time with right now, is the fact that like Microsoft isn't dancing the same way that they used to. Opening this up and making it more of a platform war thing is not necessarily something that they were prepared for, because like Sony is still very much targeted to attack things the same way that they have in the past.
Yeah.
From what it sounds like the PS6 is going to be very much another PlayStation. Whereas with Xbox, we know they're moving into a different approach. And there was talks initially, right? Like, I'm sure you remember the talks where they're like, well, they're just going to block it, so you can't play Sony games on your handheld and blah blah blah, so that way you can't have that win, right? Of like, oh yeah, I can play PlayStation games on an Xbox. We know that angers them thoroughly.
Oh, Shuhei
The
Yoshida has been trolling the PlayStation community for weeks now,
Oh,
right? He's been
over
playing
and over again.
everything
Yeah.
from PlayStation on that Xbox Ally.
Yeah, and you know, like it's good to see, and he has had some critiques too, because like I know a lot of people on the Sony side have like raked him over the coals for his recent behavior. But he has had, he has had recommendations and like things that he'd like to see improved on it too. Like he's not just suddenly turned a new leaf and been like, oh, this thing's a masterpiece. He's had some constructive criticism about the system and things that could be changed. And it's been good to see someone actually take a lot of that like fanboyism and just set it to the side and like, have a chuckle about it, but actually just get down to doing what we all want to do, which is playing games, right? Like playing games where we can, when we can. That's what it's all about. And so I've enjoyed watching that, because like his takes have set Twitter ablaze. Like I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I've seen the screenshots and it's hilarious. But yeah, it does make me wonder, like I could see a world where Sony potentially has something in the marketing rights for this thing, if they do indeed have the marketing rights, which realistically they probably do. They probably have some sort of clause or some sort of wording that allows them to try and block Microsoft to a point on like how you can actually play these things. It'd be curious, like if they had I mean, the thing is like if the system comes out and it's got that wrapper and Sony doesn't have anything they can do to block it, then yeah, like this thing could come out and knock the PS Pro out of the water. Because realistically, like the PS5 Pro's specs aren't that glorious anyways. So it's not a high bar to hit. Like you could easily right now go put together a PC and knock it out of the wire just fine. Like it's always been the case with consoles. The consoles are always underpowered versus what you can make with a PC.
Yes.
So you could easily bring something to market that kicks the pants out of both consoles, like easily. You could do it real quick, and you could do it in a micro ATX board format. You could have it in a micro tower and have it take up like very little space. So it is doable. It'll be very interesting to see if Sony figured out a way to try and block those type of things. But again, if it's got the Xbox wrapper, if it allows you to like stream it to the system or whatever, there is a good possibility the PS5 Pro is going to look extremely weak. If something like this actually happens, who knows if it will, but it would be pretty funny. I'd enjoy it. I'd probably create another Twitter account just to jump on and watch all the salt flow for like the couple weeks after it released.
You have to add salt to your name, Silent Salt or something.
Silent Salter.
Yeah, there you go. And it's got to be you dancing with a salt shaker like this, with a Jason mask or something. I don't know. It's you'd have to do that. Look, I'll say this. I did, Brett Bingham. I actually did see your DM because I multitask what I'm doing here. So when I'm not welcoming in everybody, which I think I've done today, I'm also checking out like DMs and stuff. That we're gonna get into that on Monday's show. Fuzzy, I'll share it with you after the show. That's a pretty big freaking deal. But Fuzzy, look, you're our tech guy on the panel, right? You understand tech more than pretty much anybody. Silent Cypher brought up a great point about Sony potentially, blocking Look, I'll say this. You're not wrong for Sony wanting to do that. Sony does not have that kind of power. And they don't have that power because it's GTA. GTA has the power. Rockstar has the power. So does 2K, who's the publisher. They're not going to do or settle for anything, no matter how much money that Sony offers them. Because, like, I think, who was it that just said this in the chat? I've seen it a couple of times. Let me see who it was here. TD13 314 says, to be honest, GTA doesn't need marketing. It's more like the platform needs GTA to promote their own platform. See, that's the running narrative, and I think you're onto something, TD. Welcome to the program, brother. Yeah, I think, again, it's easy to assume that just PlayStation is going to get the marketing because they're PlayStation. They have 80 million consoles, and I guarantee you that it's going to sell so much in its first 24 hours. I don't think it's going to break every world record there is. I guarantee you it and I'm undershooting it here. It's going to it's going to be the first game to break $1 billion in 24 hours. And I think I'm undercutting it. I think it might be more.
Yeah.
I do want to get your thoughts on this because, again, next year is a big year for Xbox, right? We know that there's a rumored OEM device, and the reason why that's still happening is because they're using these pieces of hardware to learn how to build their own in 27, where not only are you going to get rumor 2 pieces of hardware in the dockable and the big boy, but this is where the OEM devices are going to start to come out in every price that you can imagine. There's going to be lower end models, medium end models, and super high end models, and they're going to be from everybody. Lenovo is going to be a part of it. Alienware, Dell. You're going to have everyone making these things because the same way they're making handhelds right now, if they get the license and Xbox is going to sell that license, you're going to get Xbox consoles made from every manufacturer that's not Microsoft. But next year specifically, Fuzzy, I really do think that if this console does line up with the GTA launch, it could be a really big deal, especially if it's more PC-like. It would be the best place to play this game. Let's get your thoughts.
Oh, there's so many areas I can go with this, and I'll start with the easier parts first. Keep in mind, while Take-Two might not be the best company for Play Anywhere titles and things like that, they are one of the main ones, with the exception of probably GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption. They're one of the main ones where you can stream your own games. So that's one step removed from Play Anywhere. Because if you own the game, you can still play it, be it via streaming on a PC and things along those lines. So I would not be surprised if buying it allows you to stream it. But we'll get more into that in here in a minute. So take in mind or take into account all the mafias. I think since 25, pretty much all of their sporting 2K stuff. If you own it, you can stream it as far as through your console or PC and such. So that's one of the things that Take-Two is on board with. Now, another thing to keep in mind, and not to muddy Detective Seed's name or whatever, from a technical standpoint, unless it is 1080p or less, like a 1080p max with dynamic down, there is no way that the PS5 Pro can deliver 60 frames on GTA 6. I call it now. It's an impossibility unless they make it where it's somewhere between 720 and 1080, and it's looking like what you would expect it to look like on the Series S. That's the only way they're going to get it. Now, could they do a 45 or like a 40 frames mode or something like that? I think that might be possible if you have a VRR TV or monitor that you have your PS5 Pro hooked to. I'm not sure if VRR is on the Pro. I know it's on the regular 5 now, or at least I think. I might be getting things confused on that, but that's your best hope as far as getting something that'll look like 60 frames, because there's not enough power under the hood to get it to 60 frames for what we expect, unless Rockstar has been lying to us, and they're using the exact same engine from GTA 5. If they're using the exact same engine with no updates, no increase in AI or NPCs or graphical detail, which we have already seen from the trailers that there is a good bit more graphical detail. Even the bubbles in the beer bottles and the condensation on the outside of the bottle has been noticed in the trailers. That's why I think there's no way we see 60 frames on the PS5 Pro. Just it's not going to happen. All of that aside, is a OEM box in the works for Microsoft or Xbox? Yes. Timing of it, I'm not sure because I think there's one unmentioned player that's quietly in the background working on a home console as well as a VR headset that's more in line with what you see for the Meta Quest 3, and that's Valve. Valve is working on their next device to kind of not necessarily steal market share from Xbox, but to guarantee that you're locked into their ecosystem, even if that ecosystem can be found on other platforms. They are working on the Steam Box Part 2, although I don't know what they're going to call it just yet. But there's already a working operating system out there that you can beta test on your computer. There's already some beta test stuff that people have found for the VR headset that will be like in the $500 range to compete with the Quest. So they are probably not too far off. And I think those devices land in our hands before Steam Deck 2. So be on the lookout for that. Kind of surprised there aren't more people talking about that, considering that there's easy to find operating system stuff out there that you can beta test on your computer or your Steam Deck. All of that being said, those are going to be some of the motivating factors for Xbox to move forward and test things like an OEM device that they might be partnered with Asus or Dell or Alienware or any of those brands out there that they've worked with for, desktops or laptops with, Windows 11 being on there. And I'm pretty sure Windows 12 is still in the works, which figuring Windows 12 will probably be closer to announce and launch when the actual Xbox branded console is ready to be under your TV, which I don't know what that ETA looks like, but I wouldn't be surprised if they have a partnered device ready for holiday of next year if they can't have their own device by next year. I think Windows 12 won't be ready by next holiday, but I could be wrong. They could rush it out and then just continuously tweak it like they've done most of their operating systems, which might be a little too close to the bleeding edge. But the new Microsoft wants to be first, and they're trying their best to make sure that they're the kings of the AI game that have software out there for you. Right now, NVIDIA can be considered, at least from a hardware standpoint, the kings of AI, but they don't have any devices other than their video cards really to sell you. They have stuff for the enterprise end of things, but that's a whole other market. But all of that to say, don't be surprised. I like Bloom's idea. It does stand a very good chance, but I think it comes down to timing. If we hear something sooner rather than later from Valve that console that's kind of a PC console like device, although it will lean more PC and operate more like a PC. I think we see that first. Like when that shoe drops, expect the shoe to drop for the Asus Xbox console or something along those lines, or get a more firm date on the next generation Xbox. But yeah, next year is going to be big for Xbox. They got a lot of stuff in the works. The handhelds is just the beginning. And like we've heard in the past, they're working on the emulation aspect of things for those publishers that aren't willing to do play anywhere. There will be workarounds. So that will be how they can have that appeal for their devices moving forward. Even if the publishers choose to focus on PC first, they'll still be able to get those games on that device. But yeah, I would love to see a Xbox hybrid console like device from Asus or even from Xbox themselves by next holiday. I'm hoping the Xbox actual branded one comes first, and then we can see the varying price points of where Asus and Alienware might fall. Because I know a lot of people are already on the mindset of 1200 to 1500. I'm still on the mindset of 800 for the Xbox device. maybe a Asus device that comes in at around 600 or 700, and then they have their top line one. They'll be their X model. They'll be 1200. I can see an Alienware one somewhere in the $1,500 range,
Yep.
and an MSI one at $1,000 even, maybe even a Lenovo one somewhere in between all of that. But this is kind of where we're headed as far as when it comes to gaming hardware. Let's just hope there isn't any more, unforeseen economic or macroeconomic changes to affect the pricing as they would, as they're specking these things out, as they're working on it. I know Steam is going to subsidize their stuff, much like the Steam Deck is kind of subsidized when you compare it to other handhelds, although it is a little bit underpowered, but it is a lot more, I would say, bulletproof or a lot more balanced as far as everything that's in it. Even though it may not be on the bleeding edge of things, it is purpose built and easier for them to control and have games spec to that device. So expect the same thing from Xbox with these OEM devices, but next holiday can't come soon enough. Well, this holiday is right around the corner, but holiday 26 can't come soon enough, and expect GTA 6 to be delayed at least one more time. I can't imagine a May release
Yeah,
just yet.
I agree.
Like, unless we see some sort of, updated trailer with no updates on the release date, my speculation is sometime after September in 26 is when it releases, which would be perfect timing for that device from Xbox and Asus, or maybe even the Xbox console that they say is for 2027, but that could be part of fiscal year 27. So we'll see.